So here's a big question. When a government tries to help small-scale farmers get online, is it actually a game changer? Or is it just a bunch of effort that doesn't really move the needle? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into today through the really fascinating story of some tea farmers in China. Okay, I want you to just picture this for a second. You're a tea farmer. You live in this incredible remote mountain village, a place that's literally a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Your family has been growing world-famous Pu'er tea on this land for generations. Your entire life revolves around the rhythm of the harvest. But here's the catch. The entire world is going digital, and it's happening fast. For your whole life, you've sold your tea leaves to these big local factories, or maybe to a few tourists who pass through. How in the world do you take your life's work and sell it to someone thousands of miles away who's just scrolling on their phone? That's the huge problem these farmers were up against. So, could technology be the answer? A digital lifeline, maybe? To figure that out, we've got to understand what was really happening on the ground and this pretty ambitious plan that the government cooked up. And look, this isn't some abstract idea. This whole story is based on surveys with almost 1,000 real farming families. These folks are absolute masters at growing tea, but they were hitting a wall when it came to selling it online. We're talking huge barriers, logistics, not having the right tech skills, and just the challenge of getting a stranger online to trust you. They were pretty much locked out of the e-commerce boom. So the local government stepped in. But they didn't just build another online shop. No, they created something totally different, something designed to be way more than just a website. Let's get into what made it so special. I mean, just look at the contrast. It's like two different worlds. On the big commercial sites like Taobao, farmers are dealing with crazy high fees, they have to put down big deposits, and you need to be a marketing genius to get noticed. But this government e-commerce platform, or GEP, it flipped the whole script. Zero commission, zero listing fees, plus it gave them training and helped them all work together. So the GEP was less of a store and more like a whole support system. It wasn't a one-and-done training. They had continuous help through things like WeChat groups. They set up these local co-ops where farmers could turn their raw leaves into those nice pressed tea cakes for a super low cost. And maybe most importantly, it gave them a shared regional brand that people could trust. That's huge when you're a small producer. And this quote really nails it. The GEP wasn't trying to become the next Amazon or Taobao. Its whole purpose was to be what they call an enabling infrastructure. You can think of it like a public road or a utility, something that just lowers the barrier to entry for everyone. Okay, so we've got this amazing support system, right? The farmers now have this clear path to a huge digital market. The stage is totally set for this massive success story. But this is where things get really, really interesting. It's the obvious question, isn't it? With all these new tools and all this access to a national audience, you would think their sales would just go through the roof. But did they? And the results are just wild. The GEP absolutely worked, kind of. Online sales shot up by more than 16%. But, and this is the crazy part, at the exact same time, their traditional offline sales dropped by almost the same amount. So the net effect on their total sales, basically flat. It barely budged at all. So what's going on here? This is what economists call a substitution effect. The program didn't magically create more demand for tea. What it did was empower the farmers to move their sales from one bucket, the local factories, over to another, more direct-to-consumer online bucket. So that's the what. Now for the really big question. Why? Why didn't total sales grow? To crack this case, we have to look at how the farmers actually changed what they were doing. The researchers found two key things were happening. First, you had a bunch of new players jump into the online game. These were farmers who had never sold so much as a single tea leaf on the internet before. And second, for the folks already selling online, it changed what they sold. They started to level up their digital game. So check this out. Look at the farmers who grow both regular tea and the fancy premium stuff. Before the GEP, most of them only bothered selling their premium tea online. But after the GEP, the number of farmers selling both regular and premium tea online jumped from 175 all the way up to 250. Something clearly changed. So what was it? Well, it all comes down to costs. That whole GIP support system, the cheap processing, the shared brand, it suddenly made it profitable to sell their more everyday, regular quality tea online. Before, it just wasn't worth the hassle. So the platform didn't just expand who was selling,
It expanded the variety of what they could sell.
But the story's not over yet. The impact of this government platform went way beyond its own website. It actually created these ripple effects that were felt across the entire digital world for these farmers.
You see, the GEP was almost like a training ground. The skills, the know-how, the confidence the farmers built, they didn't just keep that on the government platform. A follow-up survey showed they took those skills everywhere. Suddenly, their use of other channels exploded. We're talking WeChat, live streaming, even the big commercial sites they couldn't get on before. The GEP was like a rising tide that lifted all their digital boats.
Okay, so this brings us back to the very beginning, to our main question. Was this whole thing a true digital revitalization, or was it a useless effort? Let's get to the verdict.
Here's the thing. If your only measure of success is, did they sell more tea in total, you're going to miss the entire point. Because the real goal here was never just about moving more product.
The real win was access. It was about choice. Before this program, farmers had basically one option: sell to the local factory, take whatever price they're given. After this program, they had a whole menu of options. They could sell online, offline, direct to a customer, through social media. They finally had some real control over their own business. And the study itself sums it up perfectly. It shows that even if you can't produce more stuff in the short term, these kinds of public support programs can completely reshape a market just by shifting where sales happen and what kind of products can get to customers. And that leaves us with one final, much bigger question to chew on. This story, it's not really just about tea farmers in a single village in China. It's a case study for all of us. As our entire world goes digital, what is the government's role in making sure no one gets left behind? What does it actually take to build a digital economy that works for everyone?